Welcome back again, and in today's session we'll be looking at the types of threats. Once again, this session is suitable for someone who's looking to sit the ISC2 CC exam or the CompTIA Security Plus exam. I'm Benjamin, and let's get started. Okay, so when we look at threats, we normally classify them as malware, which are endpoint related threats, and these are things which normally execute or detonate on desktop or server and things like that. There are phishing related threats as well, and these come in over email. And finally, there are network attacks. This would be detected by your network devices before they even reach your endpoints. Okay, let's take a look quickly at the first example of a malware, which is a virus. And for a virus, normally what it needs is a host file itself. And so it's a benign or normal kind of file. It could be it could be a document, it could be an email that is benign, and it would normally host that virus itself. When we are looking at worm, the differentiating factor for a worm is its ability to spread automatically by itself. And so this is something that the rest of the malware cannot do. And so when you see something that automatically spreads without any user interaction, most likely it's something is a worm itself. Okay, when we look at ransomware, what a ransomware does is to encrypt the user's file. Normally it's documents, and then you will actually demand a ransomware payment in order to provide the key to decrypt the file. Next up, spyware. So spyware is something that would spy on a user. So it could be something such as a keylogger, and so it will lock down all the things that the user is typing on the keyboard, including things such as a password. So these are things such as so this would be what is classified as a spyware. And finally, Trojan. So this comes from the Trojan horse, and basically what's happening is that you have a legitimate program, and there is something actually hiding in it. And so a Trojan actually masquerades itself as a legitimate program, and that's the defining factor of a Trojan. Okay, let's move on to phishing. So there is generic phishing. For example, employees may receive emails with attachments, and once they open up the attachments, it may contain a virus. So we are using something from above here, and the virus will actually detonate and infect that employee's PC. So this is a generic kind of phishing. So for spear phishing, there is a lot more of targeting going on. So the hacker might have done his homework, and he may have realized that this employee is, let's say, a finance professional. And so he may send an email, which contains something such as an invoice. And what happens is that the targeted individual would be more likely to actually open up and click, because it seems to be relevant to something that they are doing on a day-to-day basis. There's that context which actually convinces that the target to actually open up the email. So this is something which is unique to spear phishing. And when we look at whaling, this is something that is targeting the big fishes, or rather, let's say the C-suite executives. And this is really something that this is common in place for whaling. So these are all the different forms of phishing. There's the normal generic ones. There are spear phishing, which could target an employee in finance or IT, or HR. They could send resumes in, and so this is an example of spear phishing. And finally, whaling is something that targets the executives, the C-suite and the leadership of the company. Okay, moving on to network attacks. So there is denial of service, and what this is really lots of traffic which will overwhelm the server itself. And there's another variant of this, which is called DDoS, or distributed denial of service. And what this is actually it uses multiple infected hosts to actually overwhelm the target with traffic. And finally, we look at something called man in the middle. So a man in the middle attack is something that's oftentimes the scenario that is painted is an employee might connect to let's say Wi-Fi in Starbucks, and using that Wi-Fi connect to the company. And then if it's an unprotected Wi-Fi, a hacker can actually connect to the same Wi-Fi, and what they can do is they can actually sniff the packets, and then they can actually do a man in the middle, which is to convince the employee to actually connect to the hacker instead, and the hacker will actually forward everything to the company. And so now the employee is connecting through the hacker, and the hacker is allowed to and the hacker is actually able to actually modify certain packets, or actually to be able to see what the employee is actually doing. And so this is man in the middle, and a lot of this has been mitigated by the use of HTTPS, which ensures that the traffic is encrypted, and the employee cannot the hacker cannot actually modify or see anything that the employee is doing. Okay, let's quickly take a look at some of the questions. Question 1. A piece of malware spreads automatically across a network without requiring user interaction. Which type of malware is this? And so again, the keyword here, spread automatically, it tells us that this is a worm. Okay, question 2. An attacker sends a fake invoice email to a company CEO requesting urgent payment approval. Which attack best describes this? So this is definitely phishing, but is there a more specific one that we can actually map to this kind of attack? So again, this is a CEO, it's the company's leadership, and so this is an example of whaling, so catching the big fishes here. Yeah. So the answer for this would be C. Okay, question 3. A malicious program disguises itself as legitimate software but installs a backdoor once executed. Which type of malware is this? And so the keyword here again is disguises itself as a legitimate software, and this is something known as a Trojan, the Trojan horse. Okay, moving on to question 4. An attacker encrypts a company file and demands payment for the decryption key. Which threat is being used here? So this is ransomware, so you are actually encrypting it, and then you are demanding payment, so you are demanding a ransom. So this would be C. Okay, question 5. A malicious program records users' keystrokes and sends them to an attacker. Okay, so the keyword here is records users' keystrokes. So everything that the user types on the keyboard is being recorded, and it's being uploaded or sent to an attacker. And this is spyware, because the spyware is actually spying on the employee. Okay, question 6. An attacker intercepts communication between a user and a banking website to steal login credentials. Which attack is being performed? Okay, so this is something that we've described earlier. The employee actually, or the user in this case actually connects to, let's say, Wi-Fi, and then uses it to do internet banking. And what happened is the hacker is here, and he can see the packets, and then he can actually redirect through the use of something such as an upspoofing or something for the employee to connect to him, and before forwarding it to the bank. And so what happens is, when the employee actually tries to log in, he would be able to send the user a password, and if there's no HTTPS, there's no encryption, the hacker can actually see both the user and the password as well. And so this is something that is known as a man-in-the-middle attack. So the hacker is actually in the middle between the user and the bank. So this is C. Okay, question 7. A malware file attaches itself to a legitimate program and spreads when the program is executed. So the keyword here really is attach itself, and when we have something that attaches itself, it's a virus. So it attaches itself to a legitimate program. So a virus can attach itself to legitimate programs, legitimate documents, legitimate emails. It could be anything like that. And so what happens is the virus will actually be executed when the program is executed, when the document is opened, when the email attachment is actually opened as well. Yeah. And so this is A. Okay, last question here. A company's website becomes unavailable after attackers flood it with excessive traffic. So we are talking about flooding it with traffic, and this is a network kind of attack. It's not an endpoint kind of an attack. So if you're looking at man in the middle, no, it's not really that. Ransomware, no, again, this is more endpoint. Spear phishing is more of an email kind of an attack, and we are talking about the website over here, so it's not email. And so this is actually C. We are denying the website's ability to serve other legitimate traffic or customers because we are flooding it with excessive traffic. So this is denial of service. And that's about it for today, and I hope that you've learned something from here. Do subscribe, and I look forward to catching you in the next session. Thank you.